afternoon. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020, and today is the virtual event, Career Success Beyond COVID-19. My name is Barbara Harvey, and I'm a career coach in the College of Arts and Sciences Center for Career and Professional Success. And on this, in this event, we have several 2020 graduates who are going to share their success story about what happened after graduation. This event will be recorded. It will be video recorded. If you wish to not be recorded, you're welcome to turn your camera off, but please note it will be recorded. So this event is a part of the Your Summer, Your Success events, and these are being hosted throughout the summer from our department for the benefit of recent grads, to provide some additional resources for those who are still seeking job opportunities, be it the ability to improve their job search strategy, connect with employers, connect with other alumni, career coaches. So this is the first event of many of the resources that we're offering students, and this is going to run through mid-July. So today's event is Career Success Beyond COVID-19, meaning we all know about COVID-19, but that does not mean that there are no opportunities. And so we're looking forward to fellow graduates in this event to share their experience, that share some type of motivation that there is still success out there. So what is career success? It's the achieved goal of acquiring a job in a desired industry that allows you to demonstrate and develop your skills. The concept of career success is continuous and ideally should not have an ending point. This is not, okay, I achieved career success, I don't do anything else with the rest of my life. There's always more that you can do. Career success is not one size fits all. So what works for Michael may not work for Klee, and that's okay. Many people take different approaches to reach the same career goal, and someone may want to be a doctor, an entrepreneur, engineer, college professor, or actor. We don't always reach that position in the same manner. So an approach or path can be taking a gap year, landing a career job immediately following graduation completion. And so I think the myth is that if I don't get a job right after graduation, I failed, and that's not the case, because there's many different options that are available. Attending a graduate or professional school, or having various jobs that could possibly lead to a desired career position. Career success and COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic has altered plans of the world, which has forced 2020 graduates to scramble and identify a revised approach to career success. There's been a loss of study abroad plans, rescinded job offers, job furloughs, loss of financial support, and many other barriers have impacted the career success path for some people, but it is not a permanent problem. There is still light at the end of the tunnel. And so there are some lessons to be gained from COVID-19, and that's the important part here. COVID-19 has provided novel experience to develop the skills such as flexibility, tenacity, creativity, and the ability to be proactive. These skills are acquired through lived experiences and are unique to every individual. So one of the things that if we are talking to employers and we're showing how flexible we are or what we did to pull through this environment, this is a skill that ordinarily wouldn't be available to us. This is not ordinary. This is not the typical situation after you graduate. And so this is an opportunity to say, these are the skills that I picked up on. People who graduated in May of last year don't have the same opportunities as you guys do. And so it's important to acknowledge that, as opposed to seeing it as a problem, but more so seeing it as an opportunity. And then COVID-19 may ultimately prepare your career success in a way that was previously unimaginable. I've heard from a lot of different people who have been creative and how they've acquired their jobs and how they've networked, which they may not have done before. So this brings me to these great people here about your success stories. So 2020 graduate success stories. And I'm going to start with Khalid. Khalid has a degree in communication. So Khalid, if you can share your story as to what happened after graduation, where you are right now, and then potential for your goal for career success moving forward.
Yeah, so once Corona hit, I believe it was around like March is when school kind of started to close up and everyone started working from home. I mean, doing school from home. So my transition was kind of different because it right as Corona was starting was kind of when my application process for my job and we started to hear back on if we were going to get the offer or not. And luckily, I did get my offer in March with the National Football League. And so I was able to focus kind of just on the last month and a half of school and just getting to graduation. And that was a very interesting process. Not school for online is it's cool if it's like the teachers are prepared for it, but in a situation like when COVID hit, when a lot of teachers weren't used to online schooling, it made it very challenging. But we made it out the other side of the tunnel, and after graduation, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. That's where my family's from. So I'm right next to Ohio State, and that's where I'm at currently. I'm just kind of preparing myself for my move to New York because that's where I'm going to be moving to next month to begin my job. And a little bit about my story of how I got to where I am today is last summer, actually around this exact time period, I knew going into my senior year was going to be the most pivotal year for myself and my future. And I decided to kind of like hone in and focus and kind of rebrand myself. And I spent, I want to say like 2 weeks just kind of revamping my entire LinkedIn profile, my social media accounts, and I started to really become a new version of myself as far as with networking. Networking, I knew it was an important tool, but I didn't really realize the power that it had until my senior year. So in the month of July of 2019 is kind of where I started to figure out, all right, where exactly do I want to be after graduation and who can I reach out to now? Because I know that a lot of seniors sometimes wait until the end of their senior year to begin looking for a job and an opportunity, and that's when they kind of start their search. But I didn't want to wait until the end of my senior year because I knew by then it could be too late. Other people could have separated themselves from the pack by then. So I wanted to kind of be ahead of the game. And I narrowed it down to where I want to be, what field, and I went on LinkedIn. I spent time on the NFL's front office page because every team has their front office page with every single department that's in their organization and who works there. And I started connecting with them on LinkedIn. I did the same thing for the NBA too because those are the two leagues that I was very interested in working in. And I started reaching out to people, doing informational calls, emailing them, even on LinkedIn, just sending brief like questions about their career paths and when they were in my shoes, what did they do differently, and what led them to the point that they're currently at. And just through networking, I've built so many relationships. Till this day, I have strong relationships with a lot of people that I have still yet to meet. So just through networking, I feel like that's landed me many, many opportunities. I remember early into the, senior year in about August, I believe, I went out to the Colts versus Browns training camp, and it was just I had a fan ticket and it was free admission to all fans. But I didn't go with the mindset of I want to be a fan. I actually dressed up in like business casual attire and I did my research as far as like who works for the Colts communications and public relations department and the Browns public relations department. And I try to find them out in the crowd and try to introduce myself and just kind of put myself out there. And I luckily met the Colts senior vice president, Steve Campbell, and he's a great resource to me today. He took a moment to kind of talk with me, and I asked him about his career path, and he talked to me about my career path, and we've kind of built a relationship. And at the end of it, he asked me to send him my resume and everything, and he asked me if I could stay one more day because he could introduce me to the Browns senior vice president of their public relations department, and that was unexpected, but it was huge for me. So I did it, and that's where I met Peter John Baptiste, and both of those guys were great, and they both brought me out for internships with their organizations, which was kind of the start of where I am today. And then just through networking, I met with, I got on a phone call with the director of communications at the National Football League, Taylor. And just from over a phone call, just from asking her many, many questions and just being genuine with my process, she was very pleased with what I stood for. So she provided me with an opportunity to come work at the Super Bowl with their public relations department. So that was huge for me as well. And just through over the year, just through building these relationships, I feel like it put me in the best position to where I had a lot of resources and networks and mentors at the NFL. And when the NFL's junior rotational program application opened, I put myself in the best position to be successful in it. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am today, where I am a 2020 JRP.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So what would you say would be your greatest barrier that you had to overcome?
The
And
greatest
I
thing.
think, and when I say barrier, I mean like, what do you think you had to work on in order to put yourself out there? Was this something that you always had, or was this something that you said, I have to, I have to, I can't be shy, or I can't just sit back and let things happen? Was there something that you had to have some self-talk so that you could make things happen for yourself? What would you say was something you had to overcome?
I would say it wasn't the fact that I was shy, because I feel like I'm a very people person. But one thing that over the past year I've realized that is very important and that I didn't realize beforehand was that if you want something, you kind of have to go get it. It's not going to come to you. I felt like this past year was the first year where I kind of was done with hoping things would fall into my lap, and I went out, and every single opportunity that was presented to me, I found a way to seize that opportunity. And I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot of time. I even worked with my professors throughout the year to kind of miss some classes to try to lock in opportunities that could possibly propel me after graduation. So just the willingness to kind of branch out and just go with my gut feeling and pursue certain opportunities that were there for you, but they were kind of like take it or leave it kind of opportunities. They weren't paid opportunities. I've worked so many opportunities for free, just for the opportunity to put myself in the best position going forward. So that was kind of like a huge hurdle for me, was getting out of my comfort zone and just putting myself out there for people to meet personally.
I think that's amazing, and I think you said it, was that to stop hoping and to be proactive, and that's a big part of right now. As I talked about earlier, was about the being creative. Is that the way that we used to look for jobs is not, those tools are helpful, but now we have to be creative in our approach. We have to work harder and think outside of the box as to how do I get to an employer, because the search process looks totally different than in traditional terms.
Right.
Thanks, Klee, for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Michael, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we have Michael here, and his major was in data analytics with a minor in history. So can you share your story for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not as exciting as Khalid's exactly was. However, um, I really wanted to start really the job application process and looking for a job kind of when it got into my spring semester, so last semester. And through that, really the general way that I was looking forward and looking into all of it was looking through LinkedIn jobs and kind of seeing what was available exactly in the set locations that I was interested in, which was primarily Columbus and New York. And so through that, I really just once a week, once every couple days exactly, look through different LinkedIn applications that had different sort of buzzwords, so to say. And for any company that really interested me or any job title and any of the information that they really put into the application really interested me, I decided to apply for those. And through that as well, created a little ongoing spreadsheet exactly of where I applied to, where the location was, what were the pros and cons essentially for them. And I was just starting to get responses right as COVID hit, so that kind of added as well some extra dimension into the entire story and aspect of it. So through that, some companies ultimately came back being like, hey, because of the disease and everything, we're really not able to proceed with the process at times. I even just today got an email saying that they were suspending hiring for a bit, and we're still suspending. So that was interesting. However, ultimately, a couple companies reached out and they were proceeding with actually hiring and the entire process. And so ultimately, I got a job as a sales analyst at Vertiv, which is they focus in on data centers and the creation of them all the way into actually the servicing side of them, which is based in Columbus.
Awesome. Did you have any, I think, guidance or support as you um, conducted your job search, or was this something that you I guess was motivated on your own to do?
Personally, I was self-motivated for the most part. However, my parents, of course, helped a large amount because I continued to talk with them at least once a day exactly. And through that, my dad really loves to be as well proactive about the situation. So he would be like, oh, what about this position and that position? Would send me a couple links here and there exactly of other ideas and points. And half the time I would be like, yeah, I already applied to that one. So it was just in general, that was kind of my motivation and that idea of wanting to, I guess, progress at least in my life exactly. And that's how I saw it. And getting a job was exactly that next step into progression of life for myself.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm gonna circle back in a little bit. I have some few more questions I'd like to hear from Susie. And Susie, I apologize. Your last name is misspelled. I just looked at that. Forgive me, but this is Susie. Her first name is spelled right. So Susie, can you share with us your experience with a major in neuroscience?
Yeah, so I came into Ohio State as a pre-med, and so that's kind of why I chose the major neuroscience, because I wanted something in the sciences to prepare me for my prereqs and all that I needed for medical school. The neuroscience major was also it's half arts of science, College of Arts and Sciences, and half College of Medicine. So just kind of thinking about like, oh, I want to go to med school, probably should be connected to medicine as much as possible. And they were very good at connecting students with research. And so that's what most of my undergraduate career consisted of, was research all 4 years. And I also was involved in other things such as volunteering and things that were offered through the major. And so with that, I had the intention of going into med school right after undergrad. And so I decided to just kind of do things for going to med school. And then my junior year came around, and that's the year where you kind of prepare application to apply during your senior year and go into med school right after you graduate. And when I decided to take a gap year during my junior, because I didn't feel like I was mentally ready for med school, I didn't feel like my application was up to par, then I started frantically being nervous, like, okay, I'm not going to med school for a whole year, so I kind of want to work. And what am I able to do? What am I marketable for? And so I just started exploring through the career success and all that is offered at Ohio State for helping you better your career. So I got my resume together, and I decided to just go to job fairs and kind of just look around the beginning of my senior year. And I just put in a few applications just to see what would happen. And I didn't get anything back. Like, this is fall semester, so I didn't really get anything back. I was still okay with it because I'm just like, well, I still have spring semester. And by spring semester, then I was worried because I was like, I don't know if I get anything, and I don't know what I'm qualified for. I just have research under my belt, and I didn't want a position in research because I did that for 4 years. I wanted to explore something different during my gap year. And so I kind of came to terms that I was probably just going to do research for another year until I talked with my parents. They're like, no, you're definitely able to do more. You've done a lot. I was employed at the hospital. I was doing various leadership positions. So I have the skills and qualities. I just kind of got to rebrand myself in a way that I kind of fit the job requirements that other jobs are looking for. I went to a career fair during the fall semester, and during that career fair, I saw the Ohio Department of Public Health, and that kind of got me into looking at government jobs. And so I did a job search for state of Ohio government jobs. And I looked at government jobs that had to deal with healthcare, of course. And I found the Ohio Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities Department, which is what I applied for. And I decided to apply. I didn't hear anything back either until about late February, March. And they offered me to come and start the hiring process. So that was like a test, an interview, a second interview. And I went through all that and I passed, and they offered me the job to start in like March. And I was like, I can't start in March, I'm still in school. And I asked if they were willing to wait for me to start after school. And they were willing, because they kind of hire in cycles. They hire multiple times throughout the year. And so they said, we can just add you to the next cycle of applicants. And so that was supposed to start in June. And then COVID happened, things started shutting down. The state of Ohio, especially, they were having a hiring freeze. And so they couldn't hire me in June anymore. And I was worried about that, because I was like, does that mean like they're not hiring anymore at all to save money, or they're just kind of taking a break because of safety precautions? They don't know how to handle things. So I was kind of in limbo starting, because I asked if they would continue hiring in May, and they said they're on a hiring freeze. So from May and June, they were kind of just like, we don't know, until literally last week, they're like, yeah, we're going to continue and hire. And so I will be starting in July. And thankfully, I will be having a position during my gap year with the Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, which I'm really excited about, because I'm interested in now looking at the other aspects of healthcare, not just the science of it, but the laws and the policies that affect people's access to healthcare. So I'll be working with that, and just to kind of honing in my skills before I go into med school and become a physician.
That's amazing. And so even in your situation, I think you went through these stages of, well, I have something, I have something, now it's taken away. And then you came full circle and you were awarded with this. So you're doing two things. Your outcomes are that you are going to be working a job that is still I think, with people, and it's going to help you to understand um, disabilities, but then also preparing to go to med school, which is going to take you to the next level of becoming a physician, as you stated. So when we talked about earlier is that we all take different paths, right? And so your path is a little different from what Khalid and Mike were at. And that's amazing because that shows some, shows some other options. You guys are amazing. So I got a question for you is that if I say, um, Michael, I know that you struggled with your search and it didn't look like you were going to get any info, you were going to get any feedback, but you ultimately were able to land a job. What would you say as a piece of advice? What kind of advice would you give to your fellow graduates who are experiencing the same things that you are? It's just that they haven't gotten that call yet.
I would say right off the bat, just persistence. That's kind of the big thing, and really having that drive to really want to achieve that goal. Personally, I'm very goal driven exactly. So the goal of exactly receiving a job was what really kept me going, of course, and um, not being exactly too flexible and open, however, still keeping like a solid mindset and goal and having that exact idea of wanting to receive something. So just being persistent and really keep, again, networking, reaching out, applying to other positions, exactly, that can be similar. If anything, of course, it's just experience for yourself, which is more than anything the most beneficial and can really help you grow, especially just getting out of college or whether you're in college or not as well. The experience is really the most valuable asset for it all in the future.
Okay, thank you. So we're hearing about persistence, and I think um, your personal character was being goal driven. So that also helped. What would you say in your case, Susie, would be a piece of advice that you can offer your peers who are experiencing some of the same things that you and Michael had to overcome as far as getting a job that they're pleased with, and not just a placeholder type job, but something that they feel that they can gain some type of experience that's going to propel them for the next level?
I definitely think broadening your search is very important because I never would have imagined getting a government job or a job that's what I'm doing. And I really was just looking at research or like nurse aid. I was looking at things like that because that's what most pre-meds do. Most pre-meds for their gap year do that. But I think if you broaden your search, you realize there's a lot more out there. And even if your resume doesn't exactly fit all the skills they're looking for, if you have maybe 2 or 3 skills, the rest of them you can kind of just find a way to twist or rebrand what you do have and make it fit, or be willing to say like, I'm willing to learn these skills while I'm at this job, rather than just trying to find the job that you fit. Maybe you can make jobs fit you.
Awesome. I like that. So rebranding yourself and being flexible, right? Being flexible with what's out there. And something that we like to talk about in career coaching is that there may have you may have this thought process of what I want to do without considering some other things that I can learn that are going to help me get to that next level, right? And so if there are some skills that I have, but this particular job is going to expose me to some things that, oh man, I never even thought that this was something that I could use. And so that's what COVID-19 has positioned us to know, is that what I once thought was the way I was going to do things has caused me to be flexible and think about this a totally different way, right? So I'm going to do this, and this, but life has a way of throwing, a monkey wrench at you, right? And so you have to find a way to look at this a totally different way, which it sounds like what a lot of you guys did. Now, Ellen, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm one of the career coaches. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I am good. Thanks for joining us. And I'm not sure, are you a recent graduate?
I'm actually graduating in August, so I will be soon, and hopefully.
Will be, okay. So hopefully some of this information that Susie and Khalid and Michael are sharing may be helpful to you. Have you been able to land a job? Like any?
Not yet, but I
Gotcha.
am in the application process, so these
Okay.
are very inspiring stories.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Khalid, it sounds like you kicked this off last year, right? And so you were persistent. You're like, I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm putting myself out there. When I leave here, you guys are gonna know who I am. And so ultimately, that's the goal. We wanna start early as we possibly can. And by you starting early, I think you came in right in time before things hit, and so you had already had your hook out there, so you had some networks established. But for someone who maybe didn't start as early as you did, or their search happened in the middle of COVID, and so everything was brought to a halt, is there anything you can suggest with somebody who started at a different point than you? Yeah, mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay.
I was definitely going to say, like, I was going to piggyback off of Michael and Susie. Persistence and broadening your search are two of like the biggest points they hit. Persistence is key. Like, if I was in that situation where I started my search kind of when COVID first started, personally, like how Michael was saying, how his goal was just he's self-motivated and he was driven to kind of find that job, and he wouldn't stop until he got it. That's kind of was my mindset. Like every single week, honestly, like almost every single day, I would, even if it was like for 5-10 minutes, I would be searching to see what was out there, what different opportunities. And though I knew my end goal was I wanted to work in either the NFL or the NBA, I still looked at other career fields that were still related to sports, because sports is what I wanted to do, but maybe jobs that I didn't even think that I would be a fit for. I would just kind of look and was constantly searching. So persistence would be my biggest key to someone who's still looking right now. Like, yes, times are tough right now, but though there may not be, like, a lot of jobs are in hiring freezes, I would say still be persistent, still reach out to people. Now's during quarantine was the best time to kind of reach out to a lot of these professionals and do these informational interviews, because everyone's sitting at home, everyone has time to kind of answer your questions. So I would say to just kind of continue to be persistent and build your relationships now, because at some point, sooner than later, the hiring freezes are going to be over and jobs are going to be opening up. And as we all know, the unemployment rate is through the roof right now, which only means it's not going to last forever. Eventually, these jobs are going to open up, and these jobs are going to start hiring a lot of people. So your opportunity may be out there, but it's kind of what are you doing right now in the dead period to kind of set yourself up for success later on.
Excellent, excellent. That's a really good point. And I think that was the frustration, or I think the myth is that employers wouldn't want to talk to them right now. And you're right, it does. What happens is that business is not functioning as usual, right? So the normal demands, or the usual demands that a company may have, has been reduced. And so those people who once were never reachable, you now have a chance to connect with them. And then you also have this added benefit of doing a Zoom interview, right? You know, that makes a difference. And what employers like about that is, we want to see, how can you handle yourself over camera? Can you still be professional? So these are some benefits that you can get from a time like this. These are some skills that you ordinarily wouldn't have even considered. So I think that's a really good point as far as maximizing this time. This is another way to be successful beyond and despite COVID. Ellen, I have a question for you. Would you like to ask? I'm not sure what your major is.
My
your-
majors are, I'm a double major in art and technology and Chinese.
Okay, wonderful. Is there any questions that you would like to ask since you are going to be where they are in a couple of months? Anything that you think would be helpful because, excuse me, though they're all graduates, I think they all have some varying differences about what their path was, how they got to where they are. So is there any questions that you have that you think would be helpful to you?
So one thing that I hear a lot of is, I guess I'm surrounded by people in STEM fields. And that's great. That's kind of a different sort of path than I took, but a lot of times when they see that I'm a humanities major, they're like, well, what are you going to do with that? How can you get a job doing something like that? And yet I noticed that all of you did something in like the government or something like that. So what do you think? Do you think that your process was really similar to those who were applying to STEM fields, or did it take more networking, or were there fewer jobs? Like, I'm not entirely sure how that worked.
Any takers on that one?
I would say so STEM is kind of different. So like yeah, like I feel like the routes can be a little bit different. Like some majors may require you to be a little more involved in networking, while some careers may just kind of have a direct path where it's like you go to school here, then you go to grad school here, and then you kind of apply and there's going to be a job in one of these organizations for you to work at. But I would definitely say it's definitely networking is going to play a huge part. But as far as your career search, it's kind of dependent on everyone's different. So you can't really look at any one person's story and base it off of that. It's kind of, you're going to have to figure out what works for you. So though you may be surrounded by people who are in STEM fields, I would say you can take bits and pieces of what's working for those individuals, but also kind of try to tailor it around what works for you and try to be unique in your job search. And that's ultimately what's going to make you successful in the end.
Yeah, for me, since I am a STEM major, but what I was looking for in the job wasn't really STEM related anymore. It was more so like I wanted to work with people, or I wanted to work more so on the non-science part. Like I didn't want to work with numbers and science anymore. And then I actually felt like when I was looking for those jobs, I felt like I was at a disadvantage because most of my experiences, my major, it's all STEM, and these jobs are like, we want someone who did something in like human resources, or I don't know, it was a lot of communications was a big one. A lot of those majors where it wasn't necessarily STEM anymore, it was more so we want people who have skills outside of science and stuff. And so it was really about, it's really about what you're looking for. So if you look for jobs depending on what you want for this, then I feel like you can find depending on that major. And if it can't find a job in your major, definitely just rebrand your experiences again. Maybe the job you're looking for is looking for someone who can talk with people, and if you were like a leader in something, or if you did an experience where you were helping out students or tutoring, you can just say like, oh, this experience I did, I had to talk with people, I had to deal with people's personalities, different personalities, and so this is what I did. And it kind of makes up for the fact that I don't have this major that specifically says that this is what I did for all 4 years, but I have the experiences that say I did this.
Good point.
I think as well, kind of that I'm focusing more on the idea of what you were asking, Ellen, about when people ask like, oh, how can you leverage exactly your major into this position? That's that kind of viewpoint. If these questions, of course, keep coming up, I want to say that it's similar to almost an elevator pitch sort of an idea where at that point, there should be some sort of a story, an idea that you have kind of solidified throughout multiple times being asked the question to where you can say, oh, with this idea and my experiences in this, I feel like that's a set thing that I can leverage into this opportunity. And of course, with different sorts of research, exactly with people asking these questions. They'll have a story themselves. So kind of catering it as well as having your set story of how you can leverage your opportunities is a big point as well.
And one more point that I would make is that when people are reaching out and seeking this advice from the, say, for example, if you have a career that you're trying to pursue in a certain organization or company, and you want to reach out to someone, a lot of times what people would do is they'll reach out to the people high up in that company or organization, like a VP or something like that. And I would say one of the things that worked for me was that I reached out to people at every single level, from intern to coordinators to directors to managers to VPs. And because it's really good to hear different experiences and different routes. Like you may talk to someone who was 1 year ago was just in your shoes, and then you also get a viewpoint from someone who has been in the industry for 15, 20 plus years. And it's really good to kind of hear different ideas, because if you only talk to VPs, it may be tougher to relate. But if you also get experiences from such as people who are interns at the moment, then it'll help you kind of gauge an idea of, oh, well, this person just did this and it worked for them. So I can take bits and pieces of that and it'll hopefully work for me.
That's a really good point. And I think that speaks to your persistence, right? You said, I'm going to speak to everybody. I'm not leaving any stone unturned.
Right.
So I'd like to ask you guys, as we near towards the end, I would like to ask where you are right now versus where you'd like to be. So not necessarily a total end goal, but what is, I think, a long-term career goal for you where you think you feel like I've definitely achieved career success, or I'm where I really want to be. What would that be for you, Michael?
I feel like personally just it's a very on the spot for it, but
I can come back to you if you want.
no, absolutely. I feel like in general, like I've enjoyed analytics. I've had that mindset for a while, exactly. Combining statistics with computers is something I realized 4.5 years ago as something that I really wanted to do, and realized as well the world was kind of shifting towards. So with that, I really want to continue to pursue that sort of an idea. As well, throughout college, I was a business manager of a software company, so that gave me the business expertise to an extent, and through that, kind of growing the business aspect as well as the technical aspect, which was something that was enjoyable. So if I can progress exactly on more of the technical side and keep learning things, I feel like that's a way to show success. But at the same time, you kind of always have to be the one pushing and going on. And if you're exactly content with your position, it's never exactly the best sort of mindset, because you should always be driving to do more and complete more.
Correct. I totally agree with that. Same question for you, Klee. What is ultimate career success look like for you, or what are some ongoing goals that you have for yourself within your career?
Yeah, it's funny we're talking about this because it feels so new. It's like we're just students. But for me personally, I'm very self-motivated. So like for so long, I've been working towards getting my foot in the door. And now that my foot is in the door and I'm working at my dream job, my dream company, like I'm constantly thinking of ways that I can progress and grow within the company. So I have short-term goals as in like, um, how can I be an asset to my department within this next year, but also long-term goals, such as I've heard a story about a former JRP 10 years into the NFL has become a vice president of his specific department. So to me, that's very, very motivating. So I would like to try to do the same. So I have a 10-year goal where at the end of this decade, I want to see myself as a vice president of a specific department in the NFL. That'd be really cool. But I kind of just want to go day by day and kind of learn as much as I can, be a sponge, and just constantly progress and never get stagnant and comfortable with where I currently am. I'm a strong believer of you're always auditioning for your next job. So right now I'm just going to be taking it day by day and hope that within the next year or two, I'm thinking of promotions into a higher responsibility and higher position.
I like that. I really do. Okay, Susie, and I know you had hinted at, of course, becoming a physician, but where do you see yourself as far as your career success? What does that look like for you? What does career success look like for you?
Yeah, so beyond just becoming a physician, I want to be a physician that's involved in health policy or
Mm.
involved in the business side of medicine, because that's a huge aspect of healthcare that I feel like physicians should be a part of, and that tend not I'm sorry, that tend not to be a part of. And so this is why I kind of wanted a job where I kind of have time in between undergrad and medical school before, where I can kind of explore this field and kind of explore what that aspect looks like. So I'll be working with like Social Security,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be working with um, laws and policies and kind of just looking through it, parsing through it. And these are experiences I wasn't able to get in undergrad, and I'm not going to really get in med school. And so that's kind of my goal. And hopefully this year at this position, or 2 years, depending if I get in med school, then will kind of help me after med school, where I then have to start looking at what kind of physician I want to be, and not just that I am a physician, but what kind.
I like that. And so this gives, you'll be able to look at state regulations, and these are not traditional topics that would be in any of your pre-med classes, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that's going to give you a different perspective of things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You guys are absolutely amazing, and I am impressed by your search strategy, about your persistence, and I think all three of you guys have a really clear understanding of, I want this and I'm going after it, and I think that that's definitely something that has to happen on an individual level. But whatever your lived experiences are, you guys all came to the same conclusion that success has to happen, right? And so any final, final words for anybody who's feeling defeated right now? So you have some of your peers who have done some of the work, and they've called and they've emailed and they have that LinkedIn account up and looking pretty, and they have been networking, but they yet have had the call. So is there, besides persistence, is there any piece of, I think, emotional advice that you can give that helps them to not be defeated at this time, despite what's happening around us?
I think now's also a time, since a lot of us have to be home or just don't have anything else to do, is now a good time for like just self-reflection and thinking about what is it that you do want, because maybe a lot of people don't even know what they want. That was a hard deal. That was a hard thing for me last year, was kind of just figuring out what do I want. And just like now's the time to just be at home surfing the internet, checking what's out there, saying like, man, I don't really want this, or this is kind of the career I do want. And if it's not, what's the next steps? What did I gain throughout my 4 years that I can put onto paper and sell to these future employers?
Perfect. I like that self-reflection. Okay. Khalid?
I would say kind of, yeah, to piggyback off of her, but I would definitely say just don't lose faith, don't lose hope. The grass is always green on the other side. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Like, just keep chopping at the wood, and as long as you remain hopeful and you continue to believe in yourself, I believe there'll be an opportunity that you will be able to find at the end.
Okay, so we have self-reflection and then belief in yourself. So not necessarily other people, but yourself, knowing that, you are worth it, right? Would you agree?
Definitely.
That you're worth it? Okay, and Michael,
Uh,
final
I was
thought?
think I was thinking the same idea of self-reflection to an
Mhm.
extent. Even if you feel, so to say, burnt out or something to an extent, try to shift your focus for a day, a couple days, like do some personal betterment and kind of make yourself feel a bit better in whatever you're doing, whether it's walking outside for 10 minutes if you're able to or something, doing something to really change your mind from being consistently focusing on one thing, because that could be detrimental at times. And that idea of trying to keep a good balance in life for the most part, not exactly stay very hypnotized into a set point or very down about something exactly, is a big part of how I feel that could be beneficial ultimately, long term and even short term, with finding a position or anything. And ultimately, when that position and call does come, it's going to feel 10, 20 times exactly better because of all that you had to go through to actually get to that position.
I really like that, Michael. The keeping the balance, because it is very easy to get focused on what's not happening, and you need to separate yourself from that. Again, you guys are absolutely amazing, and I think I've learned some things from you, and I hope that those things will help me to be a better coach, and to motivate some of your peers as well. Ellen, before we wrap up, did you have any last minute questions? I mean, I know they're amazing. They gave a lot of information, but did you have any last minute questions for any of our speakers?
Not any last minute questions. I just want to say thank you guys for sharing your stories. Even if it's just me, I really appreciate hearing everything. And I think it's helpful.
Well, it will be posted on our website as well as on YouTube. So if you have any friends who are also maybe struggling with their process or have some questions about it, I encourage you to let them know about it so that they can get some of this knowledge that you were able to get today. I thank you guys for your time. I wish you, Susie, Khalid, Michael, I wish you all the best in your careers, and I ask that you just continue to share your success with people around you. These are amazing stories, and I think you guys are going to be amazing in your career. Ellen, I wish you all the best as you approach graduation. And I want everyone to have an amazing day. Again, my name is Barbara Harvey, and I thank you for your time, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good day.